Hello, welcome to my webpage. You folks may know me directly or indirectly through family and friends, but I welcome you all. I'd like to introduce myself and give a little background information on why I'd like to go to Afghanistan and help these children. So, my name is Miriam Hashimi. I'm an undergraduate student at the University of California, Berkeley, and I am pursuing a molecular and cell biology major and a global poverty minor. Through this minor, I have been fortunate enough to engage in Professor Ananya Roy's lectures on theoretical debates and methodological approaches on gender inequality and poverty alleviation. One of the requirements of this minor is that you do a field work, either domestically or internationally, in an attempt to apply what we have been learning in the classroom setting. My field experience will take place in Afghanistan over the summer. Currently now, I'm enrolled in a class that prepares us specifically for the region of interest by providing us with analytical tools on how to evaluate the circumstances that we will be in and engage in problem solving. So, why Afghanistan? Why do I want to go to the motherland? Well, partially because of my Afghani heritage. I am, in fact, half Afghan and half German, but there's a larger reason why I want to go. And this is because of ignorance. Ignorance being the infectious disease that consumes us all. And I'll explain. Let's date back to September 11th, 2001, the date the Twin Towers were attacked. This tragic day, suddenly bold-faced words such as terrorism, Taliban, Islamophobia, and Al-Qaeda. Afghanistan was no longer just a country pictured on a map. Now was associated with turmoil, animosity, war, and destruction. People with tan skin color and funny names were now scrutinized and ridiculed on a daily basis. And unfortunately, I was one of them. In fact, in high school, I was known as a Nazi terrorist, believe it or not. So why were we generalized in this manner? Why were we stereotyped and categorized in this way? One word: ignorance. As a result, I felt outcasted amongst my peers. I was embarrassed to admit my own heritage. And worst of all, I could not defend my Afghan people. Why? Because their ignorance foddered my ignorance. So what did I do? I knew Afghan people were far more of substance than what the media portrayed them to be. I went out and educated myself. I learned about the history of Afghanistan, why ethnic tensions arise in Afghanistan, and how Afghanistan was used as a tool and fighting ground for large political powers such as the US and Russia, for example. I also learned that Afghans have been facing long-lasting intergenerational struggles through the Cold War, through the Taliban resurgence, through the presence of foreign troops. As a result, Afghanistan has been facing destruction of infrastructure and formal institutions. These massive transformations directly impacted the Afghan people. For example, poverty rates have dramatically increased, and the average life expectancy is 44 years old. Let me repeat myself. 44 years old. Assuming, of course, they live to adulthood. Afghanistan has the second highest infant mortality rate, and 1 out of 7 children are orphaned. Most importantly, I learned that women face the most severe oppression in Afghanistan through the strict interpretation of what the Taliban call Islamic law. Now, this is not the same oppression that I faced, per se, but oppression nevertheless. And ironically speaking, those Afghanis who managed to escape their fate in Afghanistan and come to the U.S. to pursue an American dream here still faced oppression here. So I found a link. That directly connected us all. Moreover, I like to live vicariously through my father's stories, and I was always one of those girls who sat on Daddy's lap and listened to him reminisce about his childhood and his adolescence. And he told me stories of how anar, which is pomegranate, was as big as his head, and how the streets of Afghanistan were filled with the smell of gusht-e-landi, which is lamb, and how he lived in a house as big as a soccer field that not only accommodated his intermediate family, but accommodated his cousins, his aunties, his uncles, his grandparents, strangers, neighbors, you name it. And I admired that about him. I admire that about my family. I admire that about Afghan people. Within this country ravaged for decades on in, there is one light of hope. As in all over the world, children are our future, and the fate of Afghanistan lies within their hands. Afghanistan, being majority of children, should be encouraged to learn and lead into a brighter and more peaceful future. Lead a country into a brighter and more peaceful future. I will teach these children and educate them about English, computer skills, debate, critical thinking. The orphanage also stresses the importance of exercise, such as soccer and martial arts. And I do admit, I did karate since I was 6 years old, so I'm very much excited to be a Taekwondo instructor out there. In addition to teaching these children about these topics, I want to teach these children about difference. How it's okay to be different. How we must respect people for whom they are. To live in a world where Hazares, Tajik, Pashtun, Nuristani all got along together in a collective environment, interacted in unity. Whether they were Shia, whether they were Sunni, whether they were black, yellow, white, pink, polka dot, it didn't matter. To live in a world where women and girls were seen as equal to men and boys. We must foster this environment and educate these children to create strong motivational leaders of a new Afghan generation to run this prospective democratic society. ASECO, Afghan Child Education and Care Organization, has provided just that. I believe I am a good candidate for this program because I am familiar with this culture, and I will submerge myself in such a way where I will not threaten their beliefs, their customs, their ideologies. Consequently, I believe that this would benefit me as well. I will come back to the U.S. with the new state of mind, with the new appreciation of life. I will come back with these qualities that I have gained through this experience that will lay the foundation for my future career as a medical doctor. So in closing, not only must we educate these Afghani children, our own children, but we must educate ourselves. We must educate each other. We must educate our loved ones and our enemies, the elderly. We must try to abolish this ignorance that lurks in our subconscious mind. That being said, I am asking for donations to fund this trip. I am a college student, and these expenses are very difficult for me to provide. And anything will help. Spreading awareness will be even greatly appreciated. So I thank you for your generosity. You are, in fact, directly contributing to these children and to the reconstruction of Afghanistan itself. Thank you for your time. Khuda.